Hello and welcome to another edition of LIVRESQ Empower Your Teaching. It's really good to be here. Whether you're joining us live on Zoom or on Facebook, or if you're watching a recording of this, welcome. I'm so happy to be able to share more features of LIVRESQ with you. If you haven't been here before, we always promise to also cover the basics in our meeting, so I will also tell you a little bit of what LIVRESQ is and how you can use it. And then I will focus on the topic at hand, as well as answering some questions that you've sent in your registration form, or that other users have been sending us. So how this works generally is I present a certain feature of LIVRESQ once every 2 weeks, actually, not each week. And this is a place where we learn more about LIVRESQ, but it's also a place where we invite you to talk to us about how you're using LIVRESQ, how you would like to, or what you would like to see in LIVRESQ, as well as education in general and using digital tools in order to enhance education. So again, this is about teaching and education, which means that LIVRESQ, if you haven't seen it before, is a tool that allows you to create digital lessons or any type of digital or e-learning content. It's a really easy to use editor. It's easy to use in that for the basics, but we also have a lot of advanced features and a lot of advanced aspects that you can edit for your projects. And this is why we think that this sort of training, these explanations are really useful so that we can help you discover more about what LIVRESQ can offer. So without further ado and without me rambling, I'm going to actually show you how it works. We're going to start from creating a project, and then we will focus on how it works and on how we can edit the properties for the entire project, because that's what we're here to discuss today. So I will share my screen, and this is what, once you start seeing it, this is what the LIVRESQ editor looks like. Essentially, this is the starting page of the editor or the author, and you can access this page using the link here, author.livresq.com. And this is the place where, whether you have a free account or a premium account, you can start creating your lessons. By the way, if you haven't been here before, if during my presentation, whether you're on Facebook, so if you're watching us live, and during the presentation, if you have any questions, you can stop me at any point. You can turn on your microphone, or if you're on Zoom, or if you're on Facebook, you can type your question. Of course, this applies to Zoom as well. And I will answer in real time. I'm watching the chat. That's what I'm doing right now, sort of configuring my windows so I can also see both the chat on Facebook and the chat on Zoom. So don't hesitate to ask me any questions. And if you're not watching us live, then write a comment and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Generally quite quickly. So this is what the LIVRESQ author looks like when you first start using it. This is the author. We also have a library, a place where you can publish, where we host your lessons, but we will talk about the library at another time. In order to start creating lessons in LIVRESQ, you need to access the author. And again, you can have a free account. And if you have a free account, there are some limitations, but you can also use a free account to build a lesson, or you can have a premium account. And it looks almost the same way, but generally you do have this home page where you have the option to create a new, and you have actually 4 options here. You can create a new project, a new section, a new resource, or you can import files that you want to turn into LIVRESQ. And you can import EPUB, PowerPoint presentations, and even SCORM archives. That's what zip is for, but this is just in beta right now. Generally, what you would normally do is create a project. The options for section and resource are there because you can start creating your project from any level, which means that our lessons in LIVRESQ are called projects. And projects can contain a project can contain one or multiple sections. A section is like a chapter or a page or any type of organizational element that you would like to use for your lesson. So that's why you can do it all in one page, or you can have multiple chapters, multiple subchapters, pages, and so on. And these are called sections. And in each section is where we add our resources. And resources is what we call the content. Texts, images, any type of interactive content. And if you watch previous videos, or if you've been here before, if you've worked with LIVRESQ before, you will see that we have a wide range of content that we can add to the lessons, including integrating applications from other sources. So you can integrate applications that are not in LIVRESQ and that you already might be using, like learning apps, for instance. And we have a whole video on how to do that. But essentially, if you want to start creating a lesson, the easiest way to do it is to start by creating a project. And if I click project here, I now have a few options. I can either generate a project using AI, and we've again covered this before. I urge you to watch the videos regarding this because it's really interesting. It's a really cool feature. It's new. It's also a premium feature. Everything to do with AI in LIVRESQ is premium, but it's really, really useful, and it makes using LIVRESQ and creating lessons very, very fast. So you can create, you can give the platform a few bits of information about your lesson, about what you want it to be about, the age of your students, and some other information, and then it will build your lesson for you. You can also start from a template, or you can just create a blank project. And what we're going to do today is start with a clean canvas, a blank project. So I'm just going to click New Project. This is entirely online. As you can see, I'm in my browser now, which means that everything saves automatically. We've had questions about how to save progress in LIVRESQ. It even tells you that it saved seconds ago. So whatever you modify, it is saved automatically. And if you want to see the projects that you've worked on so far, you can just click on the logo up here, go to Resources, and this is the place where you can find everything you've been working on. All of your resources, all of your projects are here. Now I'm going to go back to the project I've just created, and I'm going to double click Project 43. It named it automatically, but I can change the name here. Let's do this at first so we can start from the beginning. Demonstration. And after I've created this project, the platform automatically opens on this screen in the chapter, or in the part that's called sections. And here I will be able to access all of the sections inside my project. Because this is an empty one, I haven't used any template, I only have one section. And in order to edit something in LIVRESQ, we double click that element. With a single click, we select something, and with double click, we edit. So if I click it once, I've selected this section. I have a few options up here to copy, paste, delete the section. And if I want to edit it, I will double click it. Now that I've double clicked it, I'm able to edit and to sort of see what's in my section, because I've created a blank project, a new empty, completely empty project. I don't have anything here. But in order to start adding content, to start adding resources to my section, I can just take elements from the left-hand side and add them to my project. So I'll just do this just for the purpose of demonstration. I'll add maybe an image. Maybe I'll also add a gallery of images in case I want to see more images. Maybe I'll also need a video, some text. So as you can see, I'm just taking elements from the left and I'm adding them to my project. And whenever you add an element, it's not empty. It usually has a placeholder automatically filled in by the platform. So I know this is an image. The platform provides me with a placeholder image that I can just change. Here again, I have a few images. I have a placeholder for a video, and in the text box, I have the option to write a text for instance. I can also add a quiz, for instance. I'll just drag and drop it from the left-hand side here. It's added it next to it. I won't go into the elements of the section, but essentially this is how easy it is. You open a project and you just add content by dragging and dropping. And again, if you watch previous videos, you'll be able to understand what these sort of squares mean, rows, cells, and images, and how they are organized, or how the information, how the content is actually organized. This is helpful because one of the greatest features of LIVRESQ is the fact that it's responsive, which means that the content you create works just as well on a mobile phone as it does on a bigger screen. So if you have students who will access the lesson you've created from a mobile phone, the platform will automatically reconfigure everything. And these elements, the rows, the cells, and the cells essentially help the platform organize in a way that this becomes efficient and looks nice and is responsive. So right now I had this initial section and I've added some things. And to edit anything, just like I mentioned here for the sections, we single click to select something and we double click to edit. So in order to edit any of the elements that I've already added to my section, I will just double click. So if I want to change this image, I will double click the image. And then I have a few options here. I can upload a photo from my computer. I can search through stock photos and use a stock photo. I'll do the stock photo really quickly. Maybe just choose a random one from here. So you can enter a term to search. And then once you find the image you want, maybe you can navigate through multiple pages. You can also navigate through multiple sources. You just hover your mouse over that image and you click on the button on the left-hand side, the top left corner, and choose a resolution for your image. And then automatically that image is replaced, the placeholder is replaced with this image, and you've added the image to your lesson. The same with the gallery. We double click to edit. And again, we have buttons for all images inside our gallery. What the gallery actually does is if the student clicks on this arrow, they are able to navigate through multiple photos. For the video, again, we can double click. We can change the video, either add a video from YouTube, for instance, or any other video sharing platform. From an upload, we can even do stock videos now or generate a video using AI. Features that are, or at least the AI feature is still work in progress, but it's really cool. And if you have a premium account, I encourage you to try it. It's a lot of fun. In order to exit this resource editing menu, we click on the section that we were in. So the platform always tells me where I am. I'm in my project that I've renamed demonstration. I'm in section number 1. I'm editing video number 1. In order to return to the section, I just click section. So again, I've created a project. I just add resources to my section that is automatically created. And then this is essentially a LIVRESQ project. And the more you work with LIVRESQ, the more you will see that you can add a wide number of resources, and you can edit a lot of elements, and you can edit a lot of the settings. Now, if I go back to my project, we'll also add another section. I've clicked the add here. I'm in sections. And if I click the plus button, then I can add another section. And again, it's empty. I double click to edit and I can see that it's very similar to that one. I'll add a few more resources here. I'm sort of doing this fast forward because where I want to take you is the properties for the entire project. And I wanted to show you with 2 sections because we'll also see that we can choose how to navigate between those 2 sections. But again, if you want to learn how to edit certain resources in depth, or how to add, for instance, a table of contents, there are videos on each of these topics on our YouTube channel and also on Facebook. So I invite you to watch those. Right now I have my project that's called demonstration, and it has two sections, and I randomly added resources to it. So I randomly added some content. I didn't really change any of the placeholders, but we now know that we have a project and we have two sections for it. Before, again, we've talked about assistance and we've talked about the table of contents, and it's finally time to talk about preferences. Because if we, from the menu, from the projects menu, if we go into preferences, we have a very long list of things that we can change and of things that we can play around with. And we're not going to go through each and every one of them, but we're going to go through some really important ones and through some that can really help you change the sort of the look and how your project works. Because one of the greatest things, or another great thing about LIVRESQ, is its versatility. It really allows you to create anything from lessons that you can use either synchronously with your students, so run them in class, or you can create little lessons that they can run by themselves as homework. You can create entire e-learning modules, digital books, and any sort of learning-oriented material. And this is the place, or one of the places, where the magic happens, because this is where you can configure a lot of how the project, how your project or how your material behaves. The easiest one that we have throughout our resources, because always on the right-hand side, even when we were editing our section, we can see properties. The difference here is that we have properties for the entire project. And the first one, just as inside the section, is the theme. This generally refers to colors of the buttons and colors of the bars up here. Because when we were editing the section, we only saw the actual section, but all of the sections in our projects are integrated in a larger project that's kind of like a website. And essentially it is a website. It's an HTML5, and you even have a menu up here. You can have buttons, you have this bar. So the theme selected from here dictates the color of these bars, the color of the elements, even these arrows, the color of buttons, of quizzes. These circles are green because I'm using the green theme. The text is green. So if I wanted to change this color, I can just select an option from here, or I can choose arrow, which is essentially white with orange, or I can click on configure here and I can choose everything. From fonts to primary color, lighter primary color, darker color, text color. I can even change the resource icons. So I can choose my own icon for image, audio, video, and every other resource that we have. So you can even change the icons. And below this, I'll just stick to one with color so that we can see the bars as we keep editing the preferences. Let's stick with green. And we won't use any of these options, so I'll just hide configuration by clicking this again. You can also select a background color, and the background color refers to the color in the background of all of your sections, and the background image. If you want to add a background image to all of your sections, so to your entire project, you can click on here, click on add image, and again, we can choose from a stock photo. Any of these photos. We can search for something else, obviously, but I'll just use this. We'll click on large image this time because we want it to be the background of the entire project. And now we've selected a different background for the project. It's centered. If you want to play around with how this background is displayed, and if you know HTML or CSS, you can go into advanced styling and sort of add more code here. But if not, this is how it's displayed in the center. And if you're not satisfied with it, you can click on it again and you can click remove. Again, everything is saved as we go along. If you've made a mistake and you want to go back, you can use Control-Z as we do in all other apps, or we can use the undo button up here. So I just undid the last modification I did. Now, below background image and background color and everything to do, these are sort of everything to do with what it looks like. We have a few properties regarding how apps, how resources behave. The first one is the resource status bar. Auto means that it will show, but we can either choose show or hide. The inherit option refers to properties that we inherit from other settings. So if I've chosen something for this, it will automatically inherit. Generally, if I edit a section and I want to edit the properties for a resource, if it says inherit, it will refer to the properties from my entire project. So showing the bar shows the bar, basically. You can see that we have this resource bar. This is created to sort of show the user that they are working with an interactive resource. And it also gives them feedback on when they finish interacting with that resource. So if you pay close attention to the icon for hotspots, for instance, if I click on the label here, I finished interacting, even the avatar pops up, and I have this green circle around it to show me that I've completed the interaction. And again, if you don't need this bar above every resource, you can hide it. And then we no longer have any resource bars. Or we can leave it on auto. Auto essentially shows bars just for the interactive resources. So not, for instance, for the image. If I say show, typically it will also show it for an image. Now the launcher is what happens with buttons inside a LIVRESQ project, because we can create buttons as well. Buttons that can link to other sections of the project. They can even open resources. They can also lead to, so the outside links lead to another website. And sometimes, I mean, you can show, this is for instance, a button. If I click on it, it will open an image. I can either have it show like this, or I can hide it, which means that only if I click on the element will it, so it's no longer, you can see that it's a button, it no longer has that icon there. We'll click on show. We can also select its location relative to where it's, to what element it's positioned. I think we talked a little bit about buttons when we talked about our table of contents, because bookmarks and buttons go well together. Essentially, these settings regarding the launcher are about what happens to buttons. So buttons either for taking you to another part of the lesson, opening a resource like this, so you can open an image, you can have a button linked to an image or any other resource, or a button that will send you outside LIVRESQ to a wider link. And you can select what happened, where it's positioned, and whether you have it displayed with an icon or not. Below it, you can also select the language. Hero image and logo image refers to images inside the menu, so inside our table of contents. The hero image is like a banner displayed up here in the table of contents. And the logo image, if you select a logo, will automatically appear here. If you don't have a premium account, the logo of LIVRESQ is automatically displayed here. But if you do have a premium account, then you can select your own logo and put it here just by adding the image that you wish. I didn't really get into the language of the project. This matters not, it's not just up to you to sort of write text and add images and videos in a certain language, but we also have buttons, like in quizzes, or of course, I don't have any buttons inside this, but I'll show you in a second. So everything to do with whatever the platform offers you will automatically be in that language, including when you add resources. Right now, because my default language is English, everything I add will automatically be in English. But if I, for instance, and we'll go back to the sections for a little bit so I can show you inside a quiz. If I write a quiz, and I put it on assessment, I'll preview it now. I cannot change the name of the verify button. This is automatically provided by the platform. And in order to change its language, you need to change the language of the project. So this is one example of an element that the platform decides according to the language you select here. Now, the show progress in menu refers to the percentage here in the menu or the table of contents. So the more you interact with lessons, it will give you, the more you interact with resources, it will show you how much of the lesson you've completed, and it will give you a percentage. And this is where you can show it or hide it. You can select a few speech settings if you wish. So the automatic voice that will be selected once you start creating avatars, for instance. This is where you can set it for the entire project, but of course you can do this for the resource separately. The screen intentions is also an interesting one because maybe, just maybe, you want your students to do something on certain screens. So for instance, maybe you want them to tilt the phone for certain types of content, and you can select the ways in which you want your lesson to work. So of course, for a computer, you want it to work both portrait and landscape. But for instance, for a tablet, if I uncheck portrait here, the platform will give your student a prompt saying that you need to tilt. The same for the phone. So if they're on a phone, they'll tell the student, listen, you need to tilt your phone. This is how it was designed. But you don't need to worry about this unless you have specific apps that you add, either create apps yourself or not, because again, LIVRESQ, or if you import apps from somewhere else, because LIVRESQ generally with everything that's built in, with the images, with the quizzes, with the hotspots, and any other resource you've just seen, it is created so that everything works automatically on all screens. So this is a more advanced feature. And again, even below the screen intentions features are features to do with integrating a lesson into LMS, with SCORM exports, with adding an expiry date, a password to your content, how it behaves in an LMS, how you display the variables. And apart from a few exceptions that we'll talk about right now, among these properties, generally, they have to do with exporting your lesson in SCORM and using it in an LMS. Now, I did mention just now that there are a few exceptions. One of them is the media progress bar. The media progress bar, you can set to hide. And I don't know if you've noticed that, I did it really fast. So I'll just click on show. This is a video with a placeholder from LIVRESQ. This is just the example it gives us in the preferences. It's not my project. But let's just say, so this is a normal video inside my project. If I click on hide, then I do still have the play button, but I can no longer see the bar. So I cannot skip the video if I wanted to. There's no way for me to navigate inside the video. I can either hide it for the entire project on all of my audio and video resources, or I can just hide it at first. And then if I play the video after it finishes playing, then it will display. But again, this is up to you and how you want to use it. For toolbar buttons, this is also very interesting. If you want to add other buttons up here, buttons that either open a different section that maybe is not included in your table of contents, buttons that open a resource, you can do this using this configure button next to toolbar buttons. And here's where you can add a title to your button, a label, which is actually the text that is going to be displayed here. So let's just do this for example, just to use it as an example. Maybe I want to link section number 2 up here. So I will just click section, I'll just say section 2. We've used it on projects for many different things. For instance, in chemistry lessons, we've used it to add the periodic table up here. In math lessons, we've used it to add a calculator app that the student can always access from the toolbar above. In languages, we added like a short dictionary type tool. Or you can just add information. You can just add an image that when it's clicked, it will pop up. So again, we'll name it. We'll just say section 2. We can choose an icon. So if you want to have an icon displayed, you can upload an image of an icon. And then in action, we actually have 2 options. So we can either launch an entire section, or we can launch a resource that can be found in a section. Let's try it with section 2 because that's what our intention was. So I'll just click section 2. And now I'll go into view mode. You've seen me do this before, and you've seen me do this before tonight. View mode allows me to view my project. So this is just a demonstration. This is just to show, but we'll go into view mode, and this is the actual project that I've been working on. See the resources I've added. And now if I click section 2, then section 2 pops up. Let's exit view mode by clicking on the little eye up here again. And I'll go back to configuring. If I don't want it to launch an entire section, I can also launch a resource using this button. And then under action, I'll click launch resource from section. I'll select the section and the resource. I only have 2 resources. In section number 2, I'll select the hotspots. If you want to add more properties regarding the sizing of that window that pops up, you can do that here. I'll delete properties. Generally, it's a good idea to delete everything that you don't use. I've added all that. I'll go into view mode. And now if I click on section 2 here on my toolbar, then I'll only see the hotspots resource in this pop-up. And that's essentially how it works. Any type of button you want to add, this is where you do it from, and this is how you can configure. If you want to add more buttons, we can just use the add item button here using the blue icon here. I'm not going to use this, so I'll remove it. Again, it's a good idea to remove all the features that you don't use. So if you're just playing around, if you ever want to use that project, if you don't use any of the features you played around with, it's a good idea to like clean everything up, to have it all cleaned up and delete everything that you're not using. There are 2 other options that are relevant but more advanced again regarding how this behaves, how the menu or the table of contents behaves. And one of them is either floating, and floating means, now I'll invite you to watch the content very carefully. This means that the menu appears over the content. And if we select responsive, then my menu will move the content instead of going over it. Again, this is up to you and how you prefer. The assistant behavior, it's either classic, the way the assistant works, but we can also select modern. We haven't actually added any assistants. I'll just go very quickly to my project and add an assistant. So normally inside a LIVRESQ project, you can see the assistant, you can move them around. This is the classic view. You can write, they can guide your lesson, basically. If we select modern, and we'll view the project, the assistant cannot be moved, and their message, and they appear only on the right-hand side, and they're more static. Again, it's up to you on how you want to use the assistant. Formula display again goes to more advanced settings regarding math and sciences generally, and STEM, and how you want the formulas to be displayed. Now, other important options are that you can set from the properties of the entire project, from the preferences of the entire project, are related to navigation. Navigation refers to how the project runs through multiple sections. So right now, or the default option in any LIVRESQ project is sequential scrolling, which means that in order to go to the next section, I have these buttons here. I can hide them. If I link to another section in a different way, I can have them be displayed here at the top, to the middle. Protected means that they don't go over content. And overlaid is when the arrows go over content. So if I want to navigate between my sections, I just need to clear the avatar very fast because it will stop us from navigating. It will ask us to interact, actually, in order to navigate. So if I preview the entire project now, if I wanted to go to section number 2, I can just click this arrow. So this is one way. In doing it sequentially and using the buttons, if I hide the buttons, then I need to provide some sort of link between my sections. So at the end of section number 1, I need to create a button that will take me to section number 2. Otherwise, it won't be very intuitive. Another way is to go through the table of contents, but again, in order to make it intuitive, I need to make sure that my student understands how to get to the next section. This is sort of the way in which we sort of navigate one section from the next, but we also have infinite scrolling, like social media, for instance, where everything is displayed in an infinite scroll. So if we preview now, we have section number 1, and below it, we immediately have section number 2. We don't have this separation. And then the fact that we've organized everything in section has to do with the way we organize our project, but it's maybe not as clear or maybe not as important for our students. Again, up to you or up to any creator on how they organize this. Just remember that you have the option. And also you have the option to hide any sections that are not included in the table of contents, which again, I will send you back to sort of the table of contents video to maybe get a better idea of what that means. And we can also select how the menu behaves. We can select it to always auto open when we first open the lesson. Maybe we can select, we want it to appear every time we navigate through sections. So if I change the section, the menu will automatically appear. Or maybe I never want it to open automatically, and then if my student wants to open the menu, they will have to click on it. I can also select how the bars behave. So whether they are always displayed, bars always present. I can hide the bars, and then I don't have access to anything on top. I can't see the buttons anymore. I can't see the menu. Maybe you just want to create like one simple page, and then this hide the bars option works very well. Bars remain behind when you scroll. This means that the bar will always stay on top, and in order for me to access it, I will have to scroll back up. And the opportunistic appearance of bars refers to the fact that if I scroll down, the bar disappears. Then if I scroll up once, the bar will reappear. I don't have to go all the way up to the top in order for it to reappear. The way I like it, personally, especially since I tend to add useful or things that I find important on the bar, and I also find it important for the student to have access to the table of contents, is I like for the bar to always be present. But again, it's up to the creator on how they prefer this to behave. And the main toolbar is the place where we can add buttons. So if I added buttons here, they will be displayed here, and I can sort of remove even the automatic buttons that appear in LIVRESQ. So I can literally change everything about the final project. If I don't want a table of contents, I'll hide it, and this is not clickable anymore. We don't have the menu. So here you can select everything you want. These are the main things that appear on the toolbar. The table of contents, the title, I can hide this, and you can see it disappeared. We also have a little help button. that generally tells you how it works, how navigation between section works. If you don't want this guide, you can hide it. Settings refers to, so this allows the student to change the size of the text. I don't have any text here. Maybe we should go to somewhere where we have a little text. We can actually do this. Here we go. So if I go to settings, I can make the text bigger if I need to, once I preview my project. And I also have this reset progress button. Full screen, if I want them to have the button, I can leave it here. If not, I can untoggle it. And the sound control allows me to mute the lesson. So I can turn it into sound or no sound. Let's make the text slightly bigger. Okay. So this is generally how this works. The reset progress, we also have an option here. It's called resume location. So even if you publish it inside the LIVRESQ library, you can set the lesson to start where the student left off whenever they open the lesson. So resume location always means that if they open the lesson for the second time, the cookies inside the browser remember the progress. And if it's in an LMS, then the LMS remembers the progress. But you can also say that you never wanted to resume location, so they always start fresh. And also, you can have the platform ask if they want to resume progress or not. Again, up to each creator individually. It's incredibly versatile, and I think in order to really grasp how versatile LIVRESQ is, you need to play around with these properties. I know that some of these are a little bit more complicated to understand. We have videos, and I sort of made sure that we have videos on most of these things before I started talking about this. The best way to discover how it works and how each of these options works is to play around with them a little bit more. And the more you add to your project, the more you create project for different uses, the more you'll see how each of these properties is created with the intention to give you and to give our users what they need. Now, once we finish selecting everything, and you can do this for most of these things when you start working. So for instance, the colors and the buttons you can create right off the bat. You just create a new project. Again, a blank project, because now we're more advanced. You play around with this and then you start adding content. Or you can do as I did, where we created a new project, we dragged and dropped the content that we wanted to our sections, and then we made these decisions. It's even versatile in the way you decide to go about your lesson, the way you decide to structure your work and to create. And now if we go back, there's also one other thing that I want to talk to you about, and that's metadata. Sort of adding information that is displayed either in an LMS, but especially in our library. So we will dedicate one of our meetings to our library and sort of how it works, because it's really wonderful. We provide free hosting for the lessons that you create. One of our questions for today was how many lessons we can create in LIVRESQ. And even with a free account, you can create an unlimited number of lessons because we provide free hosting. However, if you do have a premium account, you can only be working on free accounts, you can only be working on 5 projects at the same time. But that's the projects inside your resources, so the projects you are currently working on. You can publish as many projects as you want, and we offer hosting for that without any catch. So you can start creating lessons, publish them, then send the link to your students, and we have the possibility to host your lessons. And in order for your students to discover the lesson easily, and in order for them to know what the lesson is about, you have the possibility to add information here. So we're editing the project that we started today, demonstration. We go into metadata. And here is where we can add different types of information. We can add a cover, for instance, which again can be an image that we upload from our own computer, or we can upload a stock photo. I'll use the stock photo option, it's the quickest. And we'll keep the same search term. Maybe this time let's change the source. Here we go. We'll just add a cover, an image of a book. We don't need to use a large image now, it's just a small one. Okay. So we've added a cover. The title is essentially the title of the project, but we can change the title of the project by double-clicking here as well, by clicking, sorry, here as well. So we can rename the project at this point. We can add authors, one or multiple. So maybe I can just write whatever here. If I wanted to add another author, then this button is still available. If you want to add a description of your lesson, you can add a text field. And for all the fields you can add here, you have two forms basically. One where you can write the title and a field for the content. So here we can write description. And essentially below it is where we would write the description of our lesson. The table of contents, we can again write the name. If we had a table of contents for the lesson, but we didn't do that because we started with a blank project. But if we did, it would automatically appear here. And we could name it whatever we wanted. So we give you this possibility. It doesn't have to be called menu or table of contents. It can be called contents or subjects, and it will automatically take the table of contents for the lesson. If you want to add keywords, again, we can name this field, keywords, and you can add the keywords one by one by using the plus button. Keywords are really useful so that your lesson is easily discoverable. And you can also add attachments, which is files, maybe PDFs, maybe tests that you want your students to be able to download without opening the lesson. Or maybe even other versions, maybe pages from different books, or whatever you think that they should download without opening the lesson, you can also add here. And again, you can name the field, you can give it a title. And here is also where you can select the project language. So you have a lot to choose from. This is the language of the content, so not the language of the platform. Because we did see under preferences here that we can choose the default language. We don't have as many options here because the platform, so the buttons, the verify button, like I've shown you in the quiz, can only be in one of these languages. Still, a lot of languages, but not all of them. But of course, you can write content in all the languages in the world, and you can select the language that you've written in here so that your students know, or the people browsing the lesson know what to expect. And basically, after you've selected the relevant preferences, whatever you want, but they made all of the decision regarding navigation, regarding how the menu behaves, whatever you want to add to the toolbar, the colors, the images, and generally everything to do with the project altogether. After you've completed the metadata, you can export the project. And we've demonstrated this before, but we'll go into more detail on how you can export in future meetings. And then if you've exported it to the LIVRESQ library, you'll be able to send a link and you can even make it public. Now, I know this was sort of a lot of information. This is a harder topic just because you have a lot of options, just because of this versatility. I hope, if anything, it showed just how many things you can do with LIVRESQ and how it can hopefully answer to all of your e-learning needs and every type of content you want to create. It's really possible. And I would even go as far as to say, even with a free account, if you decide to go for a premium account, though, the more we add things to do with AI, the easier it becomes to create content. So if you've watched previous videos regarding how you can use AI to generate an entire project, you'll see that it now takes just a few minutes. And then, of course, you still have access to all these properties if you want to select things and if you want to go into more depth. But just creating the lesson, just creating the outline, and then just a very easy template that you can edit with some information just takes 1 or 2 minutes. And the more we'll work on generating videos using AI, we can already generate text. Everything becomes very, very fast. But we're not giving up on anything to do with versatility and with giving you the power to edit everything, because that's essentially what this is. And it's, again, very, very obvious in the properties. You don't have to select everything, the lesson, so you don't have to look through all this. The lesson or your project works very well without you going through all of these properties. However, if you have a specific purpose for the material you're creating, maybe you need to add a logo image. Maybe you need to select how the sections run. Maybe you want infinite scrolling, or maybe you need these properties, and they are available and easy to access and easy to find under preferences. Okay. Please let me know if there are any questions. I've answered some of the questions through the presentation that we got in the registration form with a number of lessons. We got a question regarding the level. If this is also used for, if LIVRESQ can be used for primary education, and 100% can. Just as it is versatile in its settings, because you have this freedom to add content very easily through drag and drop, like we've seen in the first part of the meeting, you can add any type of content. And even if you decide to create a project using AI, you can ask the AI for any type of content at any level, from 0 to maybe 130, 40. You can cater your lesson and your content to your learners, to your students. So I'm following both the Zoom chat and the Facebook chat. If there are any questions, I am here. If there are no questions, and if you're watching a recording of this, please leave a comment either on Facebook or on YouTube, and we are happy to get back to you. So thank you very much for joining us. It was really great to be with you. This was our 14th webinar. Again, we're here once every 2 weeks. If you have any specific questions, you can write them in the registration form for Zoom, or you can write them in chat while you join us. And I will see you in 2 weeks' time on Thursday at 6 p.m. CET. Thank you so much. Have a great evening, or whatever other time of day it is where you are.